On behalf of the Portland Human Rights Commission and the Office of Equity and Human Rights, welcome to the Emily G. Gottfried Human Rights Awards for 2019. I'm Jeff Selby. My pronouns are he, him, his, and I'm your Master of Ceremonies and photographer today. I'd like to recognize our Human Rights Commissioners. So, President Commissioners, could you please either stand if you're able or raise your hands to be recognized? The Human Rights Commission is a group of all volunteers, it's an all-volunteer group, and they're working hard to move human rights work forward in Portland, so we appreciate their efforts. Also, this event is made possible by the Office of Equity and Human Rights for the City of Portland. So, Office of Equity and Human Rights, if you could raise your hands to be recognized, please. Dr. Smith, I assume we got the good seats again this year. So in addition to our distinguished lineup of speakers who will be introduced later, we have some former Human Rights Commissioners in attendance. Kathleen Sadat, thank you. And also Linda McKinn-Bell. And I tried to make my rounds to see if I had everybody. Are there any other former Human Rights Commissioners from the City of Portland here in attendance? Okay, thank you. Well, the inaugural Human Rights Awards luncheon was held in 2012. And as many of you know, the program would not exist without Emily G. Gottfried. This was Emily's vision, to recognize those in our community who exemplify what it truly means to support human rights in our city, to honor community members for their exemplary human rights work and achievements. Sadly, we lost Emily just a few weeks after the 2012 event, and now we honor her by renaming the program to the Emily G. Gottfried Human Rights Awards. And we are honored to have her husband Jeff and members of her family here today. Please raise your hands to be recognized. Now, since we gathered here last for this event, we've lost two people from the Human Rights Commission family. Anita Fry was one of the original Portland Human Rights Commissioners and longtime chair of the HRC's Community and Police Relations Committee. Corey L. Murphy-Helmkamp was another beloved activist who led Pride Northwest and played a key role in the Alliance for Safer Communities. He was recognized as the Emily G. Gottfried Human Rights Awards Emerging Leader in 2014. Both Donita and Corey welcomed me to the Office of Equity and Human Rights with open arms, and I miss them dearly. So if we could take just a moment to recognize their contributions to the human rights and social justice community, please. At this time, I'd like to introduce the Multnomah and Washington County Field Representative for Senator Jeff Merkley's office, Carrie Harris.
Greetings. Thank you all for gathering today to celebrate and rededicate yourselves to the fight for human rights. At a time when families are being deliberately traumatized at the U.S.-Mexico border, over 1 million Uyghurs and other Muslim minorities are being kidnapped and tortured in internment camps by the Chinese government, and our family, friends, and neighbors are experiencing hate crimes and discrimination because of their skin color or their identity. The world deeply needs vocal advocates for human rights. Thank you for the critical roles each of you play in Oregon and around the world to those voices, and for attending this year's Emily Gottfried Human Rights Awards. I'm thrilled to help recognize this year's Outstanding Organization, Emerging Leader, and Lifetime Achievement honorees, the Q Center, Mariotta Gary-Smith, and Djimet Dogo, and their incredible work. These amazing groups and individuals are supporting our most vulnerable neighbors, including the LGBTQ+ community, communities of color, and ethnic identity and refugees, specifically from the African continent. Their unwavering efforts are helping us build healthier, more socially just, and inclusive communities. On behalf of all Oregonians, I thank them for their dedication to making our state and our world a better place for all. As we move forward toward that vision, please know that I will be working alongside each of you in your efforts to fight for human rights and hold abusers accountable. From shedding light on the Trump administration's cruel immigration policies here at home, to standing with pro-democracy protesters in Hong Kong and across the world. May the accomplishments and selfless missions of today's honorees remind us that we must not stop fighting until every person, regardless of who they are, where they live, the color of their skin, or the language they speak, is treated with the decency and respect they deserve. All my best, Jeffrey A. Merkley, United States Senator. Thank you.
At this time, I would like to invite Dr. Markeisha Smith to the podium. Dr. Smith is the Director of the Office of Equity and Human Rights, and she will introduce our keynote speaker.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's so great to see you all. So, I am pleased and honored to introduce our keynote speaker for the afternoon, Judy Bluchor-Skelton. Judy Bluchor-Skelton is an assistant professor of Indigenous Nation Studies at Portland State University, where she teaches Indigenous ecological healing practices, contemporary issues in Indian country, Indigenous women leadership, and Indigenous gardens and food justice. She has worked with federal, state, and local Native organizations and tribes throughout the Northwest for more than 25 years, conducting cultural activities, focusing on traditional and contemporary issues of Native plants for food, medicine, ceremony, and healthy lifeways. In 2017, she received the PSU President's Diversity Award, and in 2014, the Oregon Indian Education Association's Award for Outstanding Indian Educator. Collaborative work includes the Confederated Tribes of Celeste Indians, the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, Metro, and the Native American Community Advisory Council, integrating Indigenous land management practices with Indigenous traditional, ecological, and cultural knowledge to address food sovereignty and justice, and to reclaim the urban forest for physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health. Please join me in welcoming Judy Bluchor-Skelton.
Hello, welcome. Good to see you. I'm Judy Bluchor-Skelton. My dad's family from Idaho along the Clearwater River. We're Ninipu, or Nez My mother's family is from the southeast, formerly known Indian Territory before becoming the state of Oklahoma, Aniuwea, or the Cherokee people. And I appreciate the invitation to join all of you. You can feel the energy in the room of service and selflessness and the strength to be thinking and acting and working on behalf of our future generations. Part of gathering here is recognizing the land on which we're sitting and which we stand and where we work and play, live and love. Indigenous people, this is the home for many. The confluence of Michiwana, the big river, what some call Columbia, and the Willamette rivers have been the gathering place since time immemorial. People have been coming here to fish, to hunt, to play, to fall in love, not unlike what people are doing today in the 21st century. But we honor the ancestors that were thinking of me and thinking of us, that we would be here today. We think of their selflessness and their vision and their sacrifice, their fights, holding that space so that we can be here today doing that work. When we talk about the land and our connection to place, we cannot separate our relatives. They are our relatives. So as the two-legged, what we sometimes folks call humans, we ascribe a humanity to rocks, to the weather, to what some call Mount Hood, to our brother, the salmon. And we recognize when we're gathering at the rivers here every October, when we're remembering the salmon and celebrating them, making it all the way from the Pacific Ocean up the Columbia River, up the Willamette River, up Johnson Creek and into Crystal Springs, where we just celebrated our 6th anniversary and celebration of salmon coming home to spawn. We recognize that our health is directly related to our brother, the salmon, and their health. When they're in a healthy place, we get healthy. We heal the land, we heal the people, we're interdependent. And one student, an exchange student from Germany whose grandparents had grown up on the Rhine, and he said, Judy, I talked to my grandparents and they said we had salmon in the Rhine a long time ago. Maybe we're salmon people too. He said, I looked up too. Our DNA, over 86% of our DNA is the same as salmon. It's like, oh, we really are related then. So however we come to that realization that we are all related, we are all advocating on behalf of one another, we can feel it. When we get together like this, when we get outside, when we gather at these special places, and they're all special, we recognize that we all have the responsibility to act and to remember and to recognize all who have gone before and made those sacrifices so we can be here. We talk about human rights, and today what came to me was we've been doing a lot of work in the urban forest with government officials on explaining or reminding them about treaty rights. And when we talk about the rights to come and go as we please, the freedom to move through borders or out borders, looking at an earlier time and the fights going on globally with indigenous communities around the world to be recognized, to be respected, to have our waters protected, to move corporate and multinational actions out of our homelands, whether that's threatening rainforests, whether that's threatening seawater and climate resilience and climate change, which is rising the levels for many, all indigenous people, whether we recognize the edges of continents or the island communities, Pacific Islanders. We have the young people having to remind government officials and the larger population that they are losing and we are losing our homelands in these special areas. When we visit with people from Australia, New Zealand, the Maori, the Aboriginal people, those elders, those young women, those young men are also saying we have the same story. Our traditional lands are not being respected. We're fighting hard for clean water. We're fighting hard just to live and to have our languages and our traditional healthy foods accessible once again when we work and try to regain our health, our emotional health, our spiritual health, offering ceremony and blessings at these rivers globally and locally in our backyards. Also visited recently with an Aboriginal community that was sharing the message of missing and murdered Indigenous women globally. 1 in 4 Indigenous women have had violence committed against them. We have a growing number of unreported missing and murdered Indigenous women between Canada, the US, Mexico, Central America, but also globally. I want to commend the city's efforts with the creating of the Tribal Relations Director, Laura John, who earlier this year in May is Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women's Remembrance Time, and to take that time in just a moment to recognize and send good thoughts and prayers to those families and those women who are lost to us. I'll just take us a moment. When we gather, it's clear our ancestors come into these spaces. All the work that we're doing is driven by our ancestral responsibility to continue to speak up, whether it's on behalf of all communities, on behalf of salmon, on behalf of the water. It's a stressful time. We're aware of the traumatic historical trauma, but there's ongoing trauma, as was shared earlier from Jeff Merkley's office. This is global. We have more people being shoved and moved around the planet from their traditional homelands than ever. And when we talk about a colonizing methodology at our Indigenous Nations Studies Department, we recognize there's no post-colonial time. There's no post, sadly. I mean, it's here, it's now, it's ongoing. And whether the students in my classes are local, tribally native, or from the Middle East, a growing number of students who are recognizing and identifying with a colonizing practice that takes away and seeks to demoralize, either through removing you from your first foods. People have said to me, "Can't you guys eat something besides salmon?" And I'm like, whoa, okay. And we have to constantly educate and say, our foods are us. Our foods are our relatives. Their rights are our rights. We do not distinguish that. Our original instructions, whether we use the language here in the upper Columbia River, Nichiwana, Tamanawit, the natural law, it's so much more. English does not have the language to capture what Indigenous communities globally recognize as an intimate relationship. We cannot separate. So when we see these children and moms and families forced to flee and living far from their ancestral home, that is a trauma. That is a severing. I feel very blessed by my ancestors. We are here. We use the present tense, not in an arrogant way, but in an enduring way. And if anything, we are in a time of Indigenous resurgence. We hear a lot about the challenges. You guys have the highest suicide rate. No, you guys have the highest smoking rate. You guys have the high. And so that kind of negative messaging can be re-traumatizing and hold people in a place of despair. Young people feel like, well, that's my path. This is perhaps what will happen to me. The gift of getting older is to be around long enough to see that over the last 30 years working in the federal Indian education programs in the Portland area, we've shifted that narrative. We're not letting them define us. We are defining ourselves. We are telling our own stories. We're disrupting their narrative by being in the room and by speaking up. I was not taught to speak up. My family says I'm making up for the first 40 years of my life of not speaking, and speaking a lot now. But We feel that calling, and I encourage each of you to answer that call. You are if you're here, but to continue to be strong-hearted. We're in a time of reciprocal mentoring too, and I think that was something I realized about 20 years ago. The 5-year-olds were teaching me that if I'm going to come to their classroom, it was a native 3, 4, and 5-year-olds, and I brought the teapot and plants for tea the first couple of times, and then when I thought, well, we'll move on to something else in my head, and I walked in and they're like, no, where's the teapot? What were you thinking? We're having tea. Let's get the plants. We're going to get outside. So we have a reciprocal mentoring where the younger people are reminding us, they're calling us to attention. And that accountability is a hard one. And I know from our tribal communities, we elevate the elders, and that's good, but I get to get my plate of food first, normally at events and stuff. But we must elevate the younger people. We must recognize they were always the ones to show us where we were going to need to go. They were always the ones that elders listened to very carefully to see what are their gifts. Will they be those folks that continue the plant foods? Will they be the folks that have the other way of being compassionate? Will they be the folks that take care of elders? All the different roles, and to elevate their voices and their position, and that's the incredibly fulfilling work I find myself doing at this time with so many in our community. And globally, the young man on the Rhine who returned, we stay in touch thanks to technology, and we continue to have that voice that goes beyond just our own backyard. And we're in that time of sharing and connecting and remembering that we are truly all related. And Katsiaya. Thank you. Thanks to all of you.
Thank you very much for those words. Could everyone just kind of look around this room a little bit? This is a good-looking room. As a matter of fact, I do have the privilege of being in rooms like this a lot, but I just want to take a quick selfie of all of us, just so I have something to remember, and just as a reminder that that none of us is alone in this work. So, I don't know, let's do something like, let's like raise our fists or something, right? Does that work? Yeah. Okay. I don't want to get off again, my head's kind of big. All right, 1, 2, 3. Okay. Paper. I also do want to recognize some other folks that are here. We have representatives from the New Portlanders Commission, so thank you for being here and supporting the event. We also have former Human Rights Commissioner Amy Samara here as well. Exactly, yes. So our first award of the day goes to a woman that I am proud to call a friend. She's driven to make a positive difference in her community, which is no surprise, given her family's history of social justice agitating in Oregon. You can read her impressive bio in your program and see that she's a nationally recognized leader in the intersection of social justice, public health, and human sexuality. Her friendship and support helped me inspire myself. She's inspired so many others in our community and around the country. It is my honor to present the Emily G. Gottfried Human Rights Award for Emerging Leader to Mariotta Gary-Smith. She asked, do I have to say something? And I said, yeah.
Blessings and greetings to all of you. Thank you very much for this incredible honor to the Gottfried family. I'm so humbled to be recognized in this way. To my fellow awardees, thank you for the work that you do. Your work is critical and necessary for this community I call home, Portland. There are a lot of things I can say. I'm a little overwhelmed, and I'm usually not one for public recognition in this way, contrary to belief in family history. So, I do want to acknowledge all of the folks who came out today to support all of us as organizations and individuals. I want to give special thanks to my table where my aunts and my uncle and my mother are present. I really want to... I am a child of a generation that doesn't know the word no, right? I was raised in a home where I was expected to understand who I am as a black femme, as a black woman in this world. I was raised to understand that I have the right to exist and be in this body, in this world. I was raised to understand that it is my right to determine how my body moves through this space. I don't know anything different. And so my work is grounded in that I fight for the rights of others to know that they have the right to autonomy, that they have the right to love, that they have the right to pleasure, that they have the right to healthcare, that they have the right to live and breathe, that they have the right. It is a right. It's not a gift. I'm here by privilege and access, but my work is in service to those who cannot be here. So I hope that I continue to do this work in service to those, that I honor the elders in my family and the paths that have been set, and that I continue to make spaces and hold space for those who can't be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mariotta. Just a quick note, this is the first time we've had two family members as award recipients, although in different years. Sharon Gary-Smith is here, and she received the Lifetime Achievement Award as well as the Outstanding Organization Award as leader of MRG Foundation a few years ago. So they've earned every Emily G. Gottfried Award there is. But notably an African-American mother and daughter. The Emily G. Gottfried Human Rights Awards has certainly established a new competitive benchmark, don't you think? Well, on to our next presentation. I just want to say that Commissioner Amanda Fritz has been a consistent, passionate supporter of the Human Rights Commission and the Office of Equity and Human Rights over the years. Many of you know that she was instrumental in creating our office. And every year it's become a tradition for her to present the award for outstanding organization at this luncheon. But because of a very long city council session, she can't be with us in person today. I am pleased to announce that Claire Adamczyk from Commissioner Fritz's office is here to present the next award. So please help me in welcoming Claire Adamczyk.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
I'm Claire Adamczyk. I use she, her pronouns. I am the Senior Policy Director for Commissioner Amanda Fritz. City Council likes to not necessarily skate into the end of the year and instead pack as many items as possible. So I really hope to make it today. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to do so. And again, it is one of her favorite events to be at. So the Commissioner honors the legacy of Emily Gottfried and of the community members who are continuing to fight for human rights, in particular at a time when this work is imperative both for people's ability to thrive as well as survive. On Commissioner Fritz's behalf, I have the honor of presenting the Emily G. Gottfried Human Rights Award for Outstanding Organization this year to the Q Center. Q Center supports and celebrates LGBTQ2SIA+ diversity, visibility, and community building by providing a culturally, emotionally, and physically safe space at its home on Mississippi Avenue. The organization provides intergenerational support services and community building activities connected to gender identity, sexual orientation, addiction and mental health, and more. Its programming embodies the Q Center's core values of safety, resilience, anti-oppression, learning and empowerment, inclusion, and transparency. In addition to its own programming, the Q Center supports other community-based organizations by providing a safe and inclusive gathering space for meetings and events, extending the reach of this important community building work. So congratulations to the Q Center, and I believe Cameron is going to come up and accept the award.
This is my moment, okay, y'all? Thank you, Claire. And how are you all? I didn't realize how big this room was. How are you all today? That's wonderful. I'm happy to hear that. The Emily G. Gottfried Award for Outstanding Organization. This is such a tremendous honor for our family here at Q Center. It's kind of like I'm a vegan, and there's a free kale day happening at the grocery store. I'm that excited, y'all. I love what our keynote speaker said earlier, Judy Blue Horse, thank you for your words, about connection to place and the interrelation of all life. That sung to me, and that sung to the core mission of Q Center. We are a community of folks who have gathered together for decades. Our LGBTQ+ community has been resilient for as long as we've existed on this planet. And for societies that have denied us our humanity, that have rejected us, that have discriminated against us, that have turned us away, we have had to come together and find a place where we can relate to each other and be empowered. And so I love it because for many people who might be an ally or might not be a part of the LGBTQ+ community, they don't see that it's a big acronym. The experiences that we have are truly diverse, but the fact that we can relate to each other and build a powerful movement has helped us to continue to grow and fight for equality every single day. And so I'm honored to be here accepting this award. And I'm recognizing the interrelation of the many organizations and leaders that have helped to make our work possible. We have leaders and collaborators in this room, like the Portland Area Business Association, serving our LGBTQ businesses. Here. We have David Price Oregon, leading with statewide advocacy. We've got luminaries like Kathleen Sadat, I see you over there. We've had tremendous people who've done this work for a long, we're a 15-year organization, and we've had leaders and organizations that have done this work for so long and have made what we do possible. And for that, I am so grateful. I also want to thank my staff and volunteers, our donors. I'm so excited I don't even remember the words that I'm saying, y'all. But the work is so necessary. And I really asked myself, because this is my first time getting this Super Bomb Award. I'm going to get there with the Gary-Smith, so I'm going to get there. But I asked myself, what does it mean to be the outstanding organization on human rights in Portland for 2019? I sat with that question. I want y'all to sit with that question for half a second. What does it mean to be an outstanding organization for human rights? What that meant for me was that we are recognizing the humanity in other people. Sounds delusional, right? That sounds extreme, right? We are living in a time where it's so hard to recognize the humanity, both in others and in ourselves. We're living in a time, in a world, where our humanity is being questioned and attacked every time we walk out the door. It is hard. It is hard. We're feeling weary with the amount of struggle that we are going against. And yet, the thing that keeps me going is that I know when I walk out that door feeling wearied and beaten down, I start seeing y'all, you in this room. reminding me and seeing me as a human being. And so Jeff had us look around the room earlier, and look, but I'm going to say, actually, just look around your table. Look around at the people next to you, and do or say something that makes that person feel loved. Love you, Ed. This is community, y'all. This is what I live for. I live for the dream that is possible when we build a community, when we actually look at the future that we want together. And that's one of celebration. It's not just about fighting back, it's about thriving. And Q Center, every single day, is urging us to come together and build that thriving, beautiful, and diverse community. The power that we have is here in this room. And we are so excited to continue to be champions for human rights with all of you all together. Again, grateful so much for the Portland Human Rights Commission, grateful for the Q Center, and grateful for community. Y'all, enjoy the rest of this lunch.
So you gotta figure out how to top that. Okay, everybody look at somebody at your table and give them money. I can't talk, Cameron, there's no way. Congratulations. So everyone, I want to introduce someone who, another friend of mine, I guess it's kind of redundant because I have so many friends here in this room, but he is a treasured friend and colleague, a recognized human rights champion in his own right. I'd like you to help me welcome Dr. Kofi Desu to the podium from the Office of Equity and Human Rights, where he will also pass the camera off to me, where I will become the photographer once again for this lovely event.
Hi everyone. It is an honor for me to present this award to my brother, Djimet Dogo. Come here, Djimet. You see, him and I have a hard time, sometimes, because you see the contrast. He's tall and I'm this short. But yeah, so Jimmy keeps reminding me of that. He doesn't need to say it because I also feel it already. But Jimmy is a stubborn person when it comes to fighting for human rights. He doesn't give up. He was threatened to death in his country. And most of the time when people feel threatened for something they are doing, they stop doing it. Jimmy didn't stop when he came to the United States. He continued fighting for the right of the people to have access to their basic needs, to have access to food, jobs, shelter, education, safety, all of that. Jimmy works every day, from Monday to Sunday. So, that's why I said he's very stubborn when it comes to fighting for people's rights. He's been sacrificing his time with his family and his own time, vacation and all of that, just to help people have access to their basic needs. He works with people who have a lot of issues language issues, cultural adaptation issues, family issues, people who came here traumatized by war and other human rights abuses. These are the people that Djimet always trying to help. So when you see him, he always tries to smile, but he has a lot of things that he has to deal with. So this award is not just for him, it's for me too. Because I feel for him. Okay. So when he feels good, I feel good. Okay, that's why I said it. So thank you, Djimet, and congratulations.
I was told to say something. I'm very honored to be here in front of you to receive this award. The first time when I received the email from the organizer letting me know that I am one of the people nominated for Life Achievement Award, I didn't respond to this email because I thought they were just kidding me. Then I was at the, last Tuesday, I was at 2 weeks ago, I was at the New Poland Commission meeting, and then Dr. Kofi called me, and I just ignored his call. Then he texted me, he said, congratulations, we want to make sure that you accepting the award. I said, what award? Life Achievement Award. I said, what do you mean? This award usually for old people. Why are you trying to kick me out? So again, when you're receiving Life Achievement Award, that means you've been around for too long. It's a message telling you that it's time for you to step aside. So again, thank you so much, and I want to take this opportunity to congratulate the Q Center. They're doing an awesome job, especially with immigrant and refugees, LGBTQ. We are facing a lot of challenges. We have LGBTQ coming from Africa, coming from the Middle East, and all of this. And recently, we partnered with the Q Center to start, training our staff. We have over 300 full-time employees hired from the refugees community, and some of them do not have, the freedom to express themselves where they came from. So now the Q Center is guiding us on what needs to be done to educate not only our staff but also our community. So congratulations. I also want to congratulate my dear friend Mariotta, who is also a member of Commission of Black Affairs, just like me, my colleague. So I'm so happy that two of us are getting this award. Congratulations. And I also want to thank, the New Poland Commission members who are here. I think, yes, they're there. And so I am also a New Poland Commission member. And as you see all those tags, I came from a retreat, the Coalition of Community of Color, where I am the Secretary General, so we have a retreat today. So, again, as I said earlier, I'm not that old, I just turned 80. And I started, human rights advocacy when I was in high school in Chad. Some of you may have heard about Chad. It's in Central Africa. I started in high school under the dictatorship. Earlier, somebody asked me that, hey, Djimet, can you tell us more about yourself and what you did for coming to Poland? So I'm going to take like 2 minutes to let you know. So In 1990, after the collapse of wall of Berlin, President Mitterrand, the late President Mitterrand of France at that time, asked the 14 African French colonies to democratize the regime. And so I went to the French embassy library, and then I found a videotape and a book about Martin Luther King. So I brought this book home and I started reading it and watched the video. Then I went back and I got another book and video about Kennedy. Then I got about Cesar Chavez. And I said, if those people are using a non-violent alternative to bring peace in their home country, why can't we try in Chad after 30 years of civil war? So that's how I started thinking about a non-violent alternative to conflict resolution method. If after 30 years of violence we didn't bring peace, let's look for another alternative. So I helped create an organization called Chad Nonviolence. And then I was discovered by the American Embassy and also the French Embassy, and they sent me to International Institute of Human Rights in France to study. And then after that, I was approached by the Austrian Department of Education, invited at the European Peace University in Sachsenhausen to study peace building and conflict transformation. And then from there, when I came back, I started doing advocacy in Chad to bring the warring group, North, South, Muslim, Christian. It's time now to start a dialogue. And then the American Embassy decided to send me to Johannesburg through the Coalition of Peace in Africa. I spent 90 days internship with Mandela and Mbeki through their Peace and Reconciliation Commission. So when I came back, I got a personal invitation from Gaddafi to go to Libya to look at the Green Book. If you guys heard about the Green Book, Libya does not have a constitution. It has what's called Green Book written by Gaddafi, and this is guide the country. To look inside the Green Book and see what can pull out that might be Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And then, so when I came back, the president of Chad decided everybody that is suspected of robbery should be extrajudicially executed. So I took a lot of people who were executed and wrote a report and sent this report to Amnesty International, sent this report to the Department of State in the United States because my organization is funded by the National Endowment for Democracy in Washington, D.C. So the Chadian regime accused me of spy working on behalf of foreign countries. So the Prime Minister of Chad and I, we traveled to the Council of Europe. So in front of European Parliament, I asked the European Parliament to stop, to freeze all the assistance to Chadian government. So when I came back, they say I'm a spy, and then I was sent by American Embassy to the Parliament, Chadian newly elected member of Parliament, to talk about democracy and good governance. So the Secret Service came to my office. I was not there, my assistant was there, was killed. And the body was taken to the morgue. So the next thing is radio broadcasting, Jimmy is killed. So the American Embassy went to the Parliament, picked me, and sent me to Johannesburg. From Johannesburg, I came back, and then they sent me to George Mason University in Fairfax, Virginia, to study conflict transformation. And then I was invited in Poland by Jeff Mercury, the executive director of World Affairs Council at that time, to speak at Poland State about democracy and good governance. So that's how I came to Poland. So then I got the Department of State contacted me and they gave me 12 flight tickets to travel to 12 states to talk about democracy and good governance in Africa. And then while here I met one Chadian and said, I'm the only Chadian here in case you make your mind to stay in the United States, please come back to Poland. So that's how I came back to Poland. So coming back to Poland, IRCO was looking for an interpreter through Lutheran. So they reached out to World Affairs Council and Jeff Mercury asked me if I can go help. So when I went there, I saw African are struggling. People at that time, 17 open conflict in Africa. People who were coming here abroad as refugees are the same warring group that are brought here, and we expect them, the system put them in the same apartment complex and expect them to function. It's not going to work because we have 17 open war in Africa, and those Africans who are coming here are politically and emotionally tied to what's happening in their home country. You cannot just put them Tutsi and Hutu and expect them to all come for the one that they can work together. It's not going to work. So I reached out to Portland State University, and Claire is one of our participants, to create a transition framework. How can we help those people let go of all the destructive behavior and start a new beginning in the new country, in the new environment? And as a result, we came up with Africa House. I'm so honored that this achievement coincides with 13 years of Africa House. So we were able to pull a warring group together, and today we have about 40 full-time employees representing different clans and tribes. We have a brand new building. 13 years ago, I was told that's not going to work because of the tension among the Africans. 13 years later, we are here. We're very successful because all of you here support us. Dr. Kofi is one of the people who are behind the scenes that you don't see, but trying to bring the community together. So again, I want to take this opportunity to thank ELCO and all the employees, and particularly Africa House employee and also Africa House board, to thank my friend and family members. Without you, Africa House will not be successful. So again, thank you so much. And for those young people who are in the room, don't think that you have to be 50 years old before you get work. Please start early. Be passionate and be patient on what you are doing. Thank you so much. Thank you. I don't know whose idea to nominate me for this, but I want to thank whoever nominated me and thank the Human Rights Commission. And Jeff Gottfried is my personal friend. I also want to take this opportunity to thank him and his family. Thank you so much.
We were just thinking that Dr. Kofi and Jimmy should go on the road with their show. It's a pretty good deal. And Jimmy has the best jacket in the room, by the way. That's amazing. But the Gary-Smiths won Best Jacket a couple of years ago. They were the first ones to get it. So, we want to once again congratulate all our award winners today. Once again, I think we've certainly done right by Emily. Don't you think, Jeff?
Yes.
Yeah. We proudly carry her torch, and we appreciate all the work that everyone here does in the community. We want to thank the Tiffany Center crew for providing this beautiful space and lunch. I'd also like to thank our speakers today, also the Human Rights Commissioners who gave their time to support the event. Also special thanks to the Office of Human Rights staff for helping out, and thanks go to Tatiana Elahalde for coordinating and organizing the awards program today. And there's a woman who has done the lion's share of heavy lifting, but she doesn't like to be publicly recognized, so I won't say her name. But we couldn't do this without her. Thank you, Anonymous. We'd also like to thank everyone for attending today, and we hope you join us again next year. One note, could we have all the Human Rights Commissioners, the Office of Equity and Human Rights staff, and award winners, please gather for a photo, and I think we'll do that over here where it's really well lit. So if you could just, everyone's going to be congratulating you and all that, so that's great, but if we can meet over here in just about 5 minutes, we'll take photos of everyone. And thanks again for supporting the Emily G. Gottfried Human Rights Awards. Have a great day.